The Toronto Raptors are casting a very wide net in their head coaching search, but at what point does that net become a little bit too wide? In this video, we're going to be discussing the truth behind the Raptors head coaching search. What is Masai Ujiri really looking for the head coaching vacancy? Let's get into it. Welcome everybody, this is Amateur Hour Sports, the YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors news coverage in videos, live streams, and shorts. If you like what you see from today's video and you want more Raptors content all throughout the offseason just like this, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel and you can help me on my road to 15,000 subscribers. The Toronto Raptors have been all over NBA media in the recent weeks as their head coaching search is ongoing. The Toronto Raptors got a little bit of a head start in relation to other teams around the NBA with their coaching search, as Nick Nurse was dismissed relatively early on after the play-in tournament elimination. All signs are pointing towards Nick Nurse being replaced in this offseason, and the Raptors are taking their time and they're being patient and measured with their approach in finding their next candidate. Other teams around the league are being a little bit less patient and want to set things straight immediately, and this is why the Raptors were able to be a bit more patient. As we go through the NBA playoffs, as we see some teams underperform, more head coaching candidates are going to enter the pool of possibilities for Masai Ujiri's front office to consider. But consequently, as those coaching candidates enter the pool of potential candidates, well, all of those extra head coaching positions for some of the top teams in the NBA open up for the likes of the Milwaukee Bucks, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Phoenix Suns. And we've seen the Milwaukee Bucks and the Phoenix Suns have now narrowed down their head coaching search to a set number of candidates. The Milwaukee Bucks have narrowed it down to just 3 candidates, including former Raptors head coach Nick Nurse, current Raptors assistant Adrian Griffin, and current Golden State Warriors assistant Kenny Atkinson. The Phoenix Suns have reportedly narrowed it down to 4 or 5 candidates in their set group of finalists. The Toronto Raptors, as far as we know, haven't really got that far along in their process. Now, if they were to name a few finalists and a few candidates there's no guarantee that us as fans would have that knowledge on the outside looking in because the Toronto Raptors are such a tight-lipped organization, but it appears as though they haven't got quite that far along in the process and are still really feeling out every possible candidate that they can just to pick their brain and see what they would do with this team. Fans are becoming a little bit more impatient with the situation and becoming even more impatient as a result of the recent reports that are coming out about former Brooklyn Nets assistant and 2-time NBA MVP, Steve Nash. According to reports from Michael Grange of Sportsnet, the Toronto Raptors were, quote, impressed with Steve Nash in his recent head coaching interview. And this caused a little bit of a stir online with the fan base because there are a number of fans, like myself, who don't think Steve Nash is a viable head coaching candidate for this team. Obviously, he was put into a really troublesome situation with the Brooklyn Nets, having to coach Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant, having to coach and manage them on the court, and also having to do a lot of coaching, managing, and maybe sometimes babysitting off the court. And the fact that none of those 3 players are still with the Brooklyn Nets would indicate that the Brooklyn Nets management was also fed up with them, but it also cost Steve Nash his job. And even though it was a troublesome situation to begin with, Steve Nash cannot be alleviated completely of the guilt in that situation. And it really felt as though Nash, well, nobody really could have succeeded with that job, but it really felt as though Steve Nash was not equipped enough and prepared enough to take on a head coaching role in the NBA. Now, as far as his play, he's a point guard and one of the best tacticians the game has ever seen. Being able to run the 7 seconds or less offense would have been impossible without the insane basketball IQ mind that Steve Nash possesses. And surely one day he can bring that into a head coaching role, just not yet. The Raptors have been doing their due diligence with their head coaching search, but at some point, the diligence becomes a little bit overdue. Interviewing JJ Redick, interviewing Steve Nash. Are these viable candidates for this position? Well, many fans would think no, but if you're the Raptors here, there really isn't that huge of a rush in order to make these things happen. I've seen online people become really, really upset with the way this head coaching search is going down. If you see this tweet here, people want this thing to be over and done with. They see other teams finishing up their processes. They want the Raptors to be along with that road as well. But the truth of the matter, the truth of the situation is the Raptors have a little bit of time here. The Raptors can be patient. And when it comes to Masai Ujiri, he has never and will never with the Raptors make a rash decision that is not calculated. That's the truth of the situation. Masai Ujiri is never going to rush into anything. And this right here could be one of the biggest decisions in his tenure with the Raptors. The biggest decision he ever made, of course, with the Kawhi Leonard trade. But given where the team is right now, this is a real defining summer for this franchise. Is this team going to just fold? Is this team going to fall into obscurity? Or is this team going to find that next push to get them back into that NBA contender status? Get back into contention. It won't happen next season, but can it happen down the line? Well, a lot of our ability to be able to achieve that as a franchise is going to come down to the coaching decisions. So there is such an importance on what the Raptors are doing here. And the reality is, the draft is a little bit under a month away. The draft is upcoming for sure. You would want the head coach to be at least a little bit involved with that process. But the reality is, even with coaches who have been within the team for an extended period of time, they're usually not heavily involved in the drafting decision. There are specific people within your organization who are dedicated to looking at these players, your scouts. There are people within the organization dedicated to development. There's developmental coaches. The head coach is out there to put a team on the court to win games. And yes, he would want specific players that would help him win, but he is not going to be heavily invested in the decision. I still feel as though I want that head coach to be involved with the process, at least to a minimal degree with the draft process, and I at least want the head coach to be involved with any sort of trade discussions. There's a possibility here that the Raptors can trade for the 3rd overall pick in this draft. Maybe not a huge one, but a possibility presents itself. The Raptors have a possibility of trading for the 7th overall pick, and again, maybe a minimal possibility, but the possibility is there for the Raptors to make some significant moves in the offseason to shake up their team, and a 13th overall pick looms, a lottery pick that could potentially really be a game changer for this team. So you want the head coach to at least have some sort of say there, but for the Raptors, the management, the front office here, what's wrong with at least hearing out Steve Nash? What's wrong with at least hearing out JJ Redick, hearing out people like Becky Hammon? There's no problem with going through all these coaching candidates because the Raptors are looking for something specific here. The Raptors are looking for something. Maybe they don't quite know exactly what that is yet. Maybe they have a certain criteria that they want to hit, but maybe there's going to be a coach that wows them and presents something different. Maybe gives a different perspective they hadn't considered originally, and they want to bring that fresh outlook on the franchise into this team. Predominantly, the Raptors are looking for a culture change. They're looking to swing the culture of this team. They're looking for development of the players in this team. Perhaps that's something that Nick Nurse couldn't really provide. Oftentimes, when teams look for different head coaches, especially after a season where the team struggled, they look for almost, not quite, but they almost look for the polar opposite of that coach. So bringing in that culture change, bringing in that developmental aspect of the coaching, that could be just what the Raptors need. Now, for me, the two people that can do that the best, based on what I've seen, is Monty Williams, former Phoenix Suns head coach, and Jerry Stackhouse, current Vanderbilt head coach. These are the people that I think provide exactly what the team needs in terms of the culture change and also the development. More so the development side for Jerry Stackhouse, more so the culture side for Monty Williams, but the two can bring, I think, what this team needs. But because there's time here, because we still have the Denver Nuggets in the NBA playoffs, and David Adelman, a Nuggets assistant coach, could be a viable candidate for the Raptors as well, and they want to kind of see what's going on in that situation. Because there are so many different variables involved here, so many different things to consider, the Raptors are being calculated and measured, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for this team. Now, at some point, there has to be some sort of deadline for this decision to get done. At some point, there's been a lot of time here. The Raptors need to move on with the process. In my opinion, a good time frame to get this done, still with time to prepare for the draft, is June 10th. That's a few Saturdays away from now, but if we're done by June 10th, I'm happy. Once we get to June 10th, if we still don't have a new head coach, that's when I would start to get a little bit antsy about the situation. The Raptors need to focus on the draft. The Raptors need to focus on free agency, trade season. I want this head coaching situation wrapped up at that point. But as far as interviewing somebody like Steve Nash, I think Steve Nash has the ability to be a great head coach in the NBA someday. But based on what I saw recently with the Brooklyn Nets, it's somebody who's not quite ready to take on that top role within your organization. Maybe as an assistant. I'd love for him to be there as an assistant. One of the most elite basketball minds, as I said, that we have ever seen in this game. It would be great to have him within the coaching staff, and maybe someday he does become an NBA head coach. But because there are so many talented candidates all around the NBA or the basketball universe as a whole, because there are so many great candidates still available, I just don't think that's the right decision when there's somebody like Monty Williams available to try and entice to your team. And we've seen the Milwaukee Bucks. They narrowed down their head coaching search. He's not involved. The 76ers job is available, but is that extremely appealing? I don't know. Maybe the Raptors job is an appealing project for Monty Williams to take on. And if he has any sort of interest in the team, then I think it's almost a no-brainer to bring him in. Steve Nash, to me, is not the answer. I don't think he's the right fit for this job, but what do you guys think? Do you think Steve Nash should be the next Raptors head coach? And are you growing frustrated with the lack of action from the front office in finding the next coach? Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thanks so much for watching this video. Drop a like if you did enjoy, and remember to subscribe for more Raptors content like this all throughout the offseason very soon. I'm going to get started with my draft prospect content. We're going to be focusing on specific players the Raptors could draft in the upcoming NBA draft on June 22nd. Don't miss out. I'll see you next time for another video.